So today, everybody, I have Jay Sherman with me. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Jay Sherman is the Director of Sales Enablement at HackerOne. So tell us, Jay, what does your role look like as Director of Sales Enablement at HackerOne?
Yeah, so I think I see sales enablement in general, but specifically at HackerOne as kind of being a bridge between the sales and company strategy and then the actual execution of the sales team. So really taking what we're trying to do on a bigger go-to-market level and then translating that to what it actually means for sellers in their day-to-day roles, but then also balance that with what everyone's asking for, what sellers are asking for, what managers are asking for, and then on top of that, kind of providing my own insights on what I'm seeing in terms of, bigger underlying problems or trends. But in short, it's really just about helping the sales team be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how big is your sales team?
We're at about 70 people total right now.
Okay.
Across sales roles. Yeah.
Okay. And how are you sort of balancing the demands of the sales and sort of balancing that with execution and strategy? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think I try to pull it all together, look at what we're trying to do, what are our big initiatives in 2020 as a company, how does that trickle down to sales initiatives, what does that mean for each team, but then also really trying to have my pulse on the team, on all the sellers. What are they needing? I mean, where do they feel like they have skill gaps, or where do managers see skill gaps? And then it's not totally clean, but try to marry those. Ideally find projects or programs that we can build that cover both the initiatives or both the initiatives and the seller needs, or at least help roll out these new initiatives in a way that fits with how the sellers will get value out of it, or how any account executive or sales development rep or account manager will actually help them do their job better by playing their part in this initiative. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and so tell us a little bit, what does HackerOne do?
Sure, yeah. So we basically we connect our customers with a network of white hat hackers.
Okay.
To go out and find vulnerabilities, security vulnerabilities, before they can be exploited. So essentially, it's working with the good guys before the bad guys find the bugs.
Interesting.
And do bad stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, you target Fortune 500 companies. You have a lot of Fortune 500 clients.
Yeah.
And they're leveraging HackerOne to make sure that if there are any vulnerabilities in their systems, you guys find it first, so that they can do whatever means necessary to patch those vulnerabilities before some outsider hacker gets there and does it before them.
Yeah, and we're working with government agencies. We're working with Fortune 500. We're working with small and mid-sized businesses. Really, every company has security vulnerabilities.
Right.
Especially any company with any sort of public-facing assets or applications out there. So maybe more mom and pop type businesses don't have the need, but any company that has technology and has software of any sort, there's bugs.
I just read an article.
There's always bugs.
Yeah, absolutely. I just read an article, I think, that came out a couple of days ago. And by the way, we're right before the holiday season, you guys, so I hope everyone's ready for that. But that the government is welcoming hackers to come and hack their systems.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
The Department of Defense and such, because there are vulnerabilities and these are legacy systems that are out there. And so you guys are playing an important part, as you mentioned, with the government and these other companies to ensure that, this doesn't happen.
Right. Well, part of the idea is that with our own teams, whatever team you have, whatever you're doing, you want to get multiple eyes on it. You want to get unique perspectives. And a security team, no matter how big the security team is, just isn't going to be able to look at things in the way that this kind of crowdsourced network of hackers can do. And also, by the way, there's traditionally a negative connotation of what hackers are.
Right.
We are seeing that change, and really a hacker by definition is not a criminal. Yes, there are criminal hackers, just like there's criminal people. There's criminals. But your average hacker is not a criminal. Your average hacker is someone who's curious. They're a tinkerer. And so we're trying to build something that gives these people a career in hacking, a way to kind of explore that curiosity and tinker, and find these things that companies just are missing themselves. What they're doing today with pen testing and scanners and their own internal teams, whatever methods of testing they're using today, they're missing things. And when you can get more eyes on it, because it's essentially like when a company gets hacked and when there is a breach, there's someone from the outside that's finding something that your team hasn't been able to find.
Yes.
So why not partner with the good guys who are on the outside that have that same perspective, but they're in it for good.
So let's bring it back to your role as director of sales enablement at HackerOne. So what's your leadership style like, Jay, and how do you achieve top results with your team?
So I think couple big things are leading with curiosity and leading with authenticity. So first, with curiosity, I always want to learn more about a problem before I just jump into developing a solution. And this comes about in enablement all the time, and this isn't specific to HackerOne. I think this is everywhere. Coming to enablement with, hey, we have this problem, we need to do a training. And the temptation is always there to just say, okay, let's start building the training. But usually when that's happening, you might be getting one slice of it, one perspective on it. And also it's like, what exactly are we training on? What's the problem here? What are we trying to solve? In some cases, yes, it's a skill gap or a knowledge gap where training and some combination of content and reinforcement will probably solve that need. But a lot of the times it's actually more, there's a process issue or we have an alignment issue. And putting training together isn't going to solve that. It's just going to put a Band-Aid on that. And then the same problem is going to resurface in other ways. And so you're going to keep seeing it. So it's not solving anything. So I really, with any sort of problem, I really want to get more perspectives, kind of like with our hackers, get more eyes on it. Before I start figuring out, okay, here's how we're going to solve it. And then with authenticity, I think first off, I know I'm not perfect. I have a lot of room for improvement, and I want to continually improve. I want to also try to do good. I want to do what's right for people, and I just want to be transparent. And so I'm seeking feedback. I am open and honest about where I've made mistakes, and just I think that actually fits in well with our HackerOne. We have a core set of 5 values at HackerOne. So 2 of those are leading with integrity and defaulting to disclosure. It kind of it's infused across our whole business, and I try to take that into my leadership style as well.
Great. Yeah, I think, the way that I would interpret that is that you're not afraid to be vulnerable per se. Right, which leads back to the authenticity. And getting the feedback and making sure that there is that integrity in your leadership style. And then obviously, the curiosity part is great. I think the mindset of always staying curious is just such a great way to sort of lead and sort of have that type of purview as you sort of have a team that you're trying to manage and work with.
And I think both breed trust as well. When you show that you are, you're vulnerable, you're admitting where you had fault. It helps create a culture where you have more openness, and I think we see that across our leadership team. But I think it does have to start with leadership, and then we can create a whole culture of continuous improvement and sharing feedback and just being open and honest with each other.
Great. So in your opinion, what is the scope of sales enablement?
Well, I think it depends on the organization and where enablement fits in the organization, but probably more importantly depends on who is running sales enablement and just the sales enablement team. I think if sales enablement can be in L&D, and there it's probably more focused on training. It might be under sales operations. Where L&D,
by the way, learning and development.
Learning and development, or HR. Under sales operations, it may be more process, tools, systems. Under product marketing, it's probably going to be more about content, right?
Right.
And where it sits at HackerOne, I report directly to the head of sales. And I think being part of the sales organization and being a member of the sales leadership team is where enablement can really do all of those things and more. And as I was saying earlier, kind of be that bridge between strategy and execution. And that's where you can really deliver a lot of value out of sales enablement.
So based on your different audiences, you are sort of evaluating that and making sure that you're enabling the right type of content so that they are successful in what they need to do.
Yeah, it may be content, and if it's content, then it's what content do we need, and develop and working with across the organization. It may be working with product marketing, maybe working with customer success, maybe working with our security team, whoever, to build the right content that'll actually help enable whatever sort of behavior or skill we're trying to develop.
Are there other assets you're seeing besides content that's effective?
Yeah, I mean, a big one that's been effective for us is just calls, like actual customer calls.
Okay.
So, I came on board about a year ago, and pretty quickly, when we onboard folks, they go through a whole set of training. They have resources. There's activities, exercises. We do role plays, all that sort of stuff. But it's still missing, like, well, what are actual customers saying? What actually happens on a phone call with a security buyer?
Sure.
And so there's just nothing that does that better than actually listening to calls. So of course you can you can shadow reps on calls, but that's not totally scalable, and sometimes it's a little funky having someone on a call who's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Having call recordings and being able to share that library with the team is something that we've kind of just rolled this out, but had a lot of success with it.
That's great. That's great. Why do you think sales enablement is an important investment for companies?
So I think a few reasons. I think it's about getting return on sales investment. It's about recruiting and retention, and then it's also about having a longer term view from within the sales team.
Okay.
So for those, I mean, the return on sales investment, like cost of sales is high for most companies, right? One of the highest costs, especially in SaaS. And with sales enablement, you can help ensure that you are accelerating ramp time, so getting new hires up to speed faster, boosting productivity, adopting new initiatives, driving change management. That's something sales enablement can help drive and help you get more out of the investment you're putting into sales.
Right.
Recruiting and retention. I mean, people coming into a new company, they want to know they're supported, right? They want to, and you can't leave that all to the managers.
Right.
Managers play a critical role in onboarding, but they have a lot. They have their current team. There's especially a frontline manager has so much on their plates.
Right.
And so you're going to get out of that inconsistency. How we train on our methodology or messaging or all of this stuff is going to be a little different manager to manager. So you get that inconsistency, and then there's just the stress for the managers and for the new hires who are kind of desperate.
So take that off their plate.
Take that off their plate. Right. And so for recruiting purposes, when someone who's evaluating a company sees that there's a strong enablement program in place, and part of that is sales onboarding, they know they're coming into an environment where they'll be supported and they can be successful.
Absolutely.
And then on the retention side, of course, once you're in, people are looking for career path. They want to develop. And so it's the same thing. It's working with the managers to build that career path. And whatever that means from a training, content, and coaching perspective, but kind of putting that structure in place to allow people to grow.
Got it.
And then the last piece is just having that kind of longer term view from within the sales team. Of course, sales leadership, especially head of sales, is taking that long term view. But sellers and frontline managers, it's really day to day, month to month, quarter to quarter. You're probably driving or building up your pipeline, thinking ahead, but that's about as much as you're doing to think past what's happening this quarter.
Sure.
And sales leaders themselves, they're getting bogged down into those day-to-day, quarter-by-quarter details as well.
Absolutely.
So when you have sales enablement as part of the sales team, you have someone who's always kind of working side by side with sales, but is able to kind of take a step aside and be thinking about, well, how are we going to keep being successful next quarter, next year, and so on.
Got it. And so as director of sales enablement at HackerOne, how did you sort of approach the initiative from the ground up? How did you build it? What was your vision? What was your strategy? What advice can you give folks out there that are in sales enablement, that are trying to figure out the right combination here? What did you do that you saw that was successful? What are any learnings that you can share with us that didn't work for you or that you were successful with?
Yeah, so I think, so I started at HackerOne about 14 months ago and was the first sales enablement hire. So building sales enablement from the ground up. There were certainly some pieces in place that sales leadership had developed and my current boss had put in place, but it just wasn't scalable or sustainable for the head of sales to be doing sales onboarding and all that stuff. So I came in to build things from the ground up and certainly had ideas coming in, but I came in and just put all those, and I had to have ideas to get the job in the first place.
Right.
But I came in and immediately put all those ideas on the back burner.
And those ideas came from your previous experience. You were at Okta before HackerOne.
Was at Okta before, yes. And so certainly had some ideas about some things we'd done at Okta to bring in to build the foundations for sales enablement at HackerOne. And also just in going through the interview process and learning about what was going on at HackerOne, what the needs were, developed some early ideas about what could work, right?
Okay.
But came in and tried to forget about all of that, at least initially.
Okay.
So it was all about leading with curiosity.
Yes.
So, and for me, I kind of think about it as I approached it with a sales mentality. I went through discovery and then would do solution mapping, and then we would get to delivery and execution.
Okay.
But for my internal sales enablement discovery, I made it a goal to talk to every single person on the sales team and a number of other cross-functional folks within the first 4 to 6 weeks.
So absolute discovery.
Yeah.
So learning what's happening.
Learning what's going on.
What's the foundation look like?
Exactly. And when you think about building a plan, you have to have data that goes into the plan. And in this case, the best data was just information in people's heads.
Right.
So the only way to really get that was having conversations.
Yep.
But I wanted to be structured. So I put together a whole standardized set of questions to cover with all the individual contributors, and then a whole set of questions to cover with sales managers and sales leaders. And there was I had kind of quantitative ratings questions and then more qualitative open-ended questions across about 8 different areas.
Okay.
And went through all of that with everyone, ended up collecting 112 pages of notes.
Wow.
And so then it became analysis time.
Sure.
Dug through all of that and then just pulled out insights of, okay, here's what's working, here's what's not working in all of these areas.
Right.
And then also just kind of here are some overarching themes and pain points and also, where we're doing well. And actually from there, it became pretty easy to start putting, I shouldn't say easy, but easy. The harder part was doing all those interviews, going through all of that information.
Right.
Once I kind of had that all put together, a lot of the solutions just kind of became very clear.
Right.
And so built out a whole plan, with OKRs, objectives, key results for the first year, along with a roadmap for all the tasks and projects that would roll up to address those OKRs. And then it was just execution and just kind of heads down. And, of course, you have to adjust. Things change, new initiatives, new challenges.
Right.
So periodically reassess. But for the most part, I've been able to go through 2019 with that plan. It's probably stayed about 80% true to plan.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you from your onboarding to get to a sales enablement strategy that you were satisfied with?
2 months.
2 months. Okay, that's not long at all.
So I wanted to show that I was bringing in value as soon as possible.
Okay.
So, and that's part of why I was trying to get all of those interviews done within the first 4 to 6 weeks, and then I gave myself 2 to 3 weeks to turn it around. Once I had the plan put together, kind of did another round with sales leaders, got their approval, feedback, made adjustments, and then once I kind of had it all down, presented to the whole sales team
Okay.
of what we were doing with sales enablement in 2019, because it was important to me to show that I didn't just come in here and talk to everyone.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm doing about it.
Sure. Absolutely. You
Yeah.
put some action to the words.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Jay, can you share any tips for organizations on how to really boost sales productivity?
Yeah, well, I think one of the first ones that jumps to mind is something I mentioned a little bit earlier around call recordings.
Okay.
Call recordings and conversation intelligence. There's some great solutions out there.
Okay.
But so we put a solution in place for conversation intelligence just a couple months ago and have started getting value out of it right away.
Okay.
So what it does captures all the recordings. Right now, we started with just a couple teams, but captures the recordings or the conversations that these teams are having. Individual sellers are then using these calls or the recordings to analyze for self-improvement, share with their managers for coaching opportunities, review calls for preparation for follow-up calls. You're able to better focus on the conversation itself rather than just taking notes furiously.
You're focused in the moment.
Exactly. Yeah, you can actually listen to what people are saying. And then for the managers, I mean, they're able to work together better with reps. If a call happened that the manager wasn't able to join, they can still listen to that later, or they can say, hey, this happened, or this question came up, this objection came up. How would you have addressed this?
Right.
And then there's also stuff just sharing across teams, sharing with product or product marketing that, hey, this is what customers are actually saying.
Right.
So
Right.
you get a lot more of that context to share with the rest of the company. And then, of course, for onboarding purpose or just for development across the team, for continuous learning, having this whole library of calls to listen to where you're actually hearing how these conversations go and what people are saying. You get best practices out of that.
Got it.
That one's been huge for us.
And but in terms of those calls, and I love that. That's great. Are you providing scripts? Or are these calls a combination of templates and based on what's being said, they're adjusting the conversation? Are there decks that you're providing? How does that work?
Yeah, it's really a combination. We don't necessarily have scripts.
Okay.
First off, we have a sales methodology, and that really covers how we sell, how we approach discovery, leading by learning about all these different components about what's happening with the business today. I take this approach with sales enablement. Just about everything is learning what's going on first, and then kind of putting a solution in place. So we have that framework for how we run those calls. So we do a lot of training to kind of develop mastery in that framework.
Got it.
And then, we have a discovery guide and we have questions we recommend. But part of having that sales methodology is about active listening. So, we kind of send reps in with questions they can ask, but shouldn't just be a list of questions, right? It's listening for kind of key nuggets that you're getting out of the answers, and then digging in and getting those second level questions. That's where you get into some real pain, real objectives for the business. So it's more teaching the skill of discovery than it's like, here's exactly what you need to say.
Right.
But you can get a lot better at that a lot faster when you hear more of what customers are actually saying, without having to, of course, eventually you have to just go do it.
Yeah.
But I think you can ramp up your learning faster when you can hear other examples of people having those conversations, what buyers are saying, and where sellers are doing things well.
Great. Awesome. What are some of your top sales enablement initiatives?
Well, the big one for me in 2020 is hiring. I'm building out the team, so I'm growing from a team of 1 to a team of 3, which is very exciting. I think great proof of success in the first 14 months. So I'm right now hiring for a sales onboarding manager, and their big initiative is going to be evolving our sales onboarding.
Sure.
And then in about 4 or 5 months, I'll start looking for a sales content manager, which will be, managing content, but also developing content. So a big initiative there is going to be developing playbooks that support all of our bigger company or sales initiatives. So I think that's one big way we're going to tie sales enablement or use sales enablement to support and roll out these bigger company initiatives
Mm-hmm.
to the team.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you actually run this initiative or run this play with, laying out all these different scenarios, all that stuff.
So anybody who's watching now, can they apply for these jobs, or how do you?
The sales enablement, the sales onboarding manager role is open now. So
there you
yes,
go.
I am definitely looking for that one.
Okay.
The content role will be open in about 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. And in your opinion, where do you see HackerOne in the next 5 years, the next 3 to 5 years?
I think it'll be interesting. We're creating a category right now, and I think we've got a lot of innovative companies working with us today, forward-thinking companies that have opened up to this concept of inviting this network of white hat hackers in to find and submit vulnerabilities. I think that we'll continue to build value there, and more companies will see that value, and hacker-powered security will become a core component of the security stack. And hackers will get more away from that, mentality of, hackers are criminals to, no, hackers are creatives. They're tinkerers. And of course there are criminals out there, but they're criminals just like any other type of criminal.
A lot of bad actors out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're just criminals who have a certain set of skills. But most hackers are good people. And they have a lot of value to bring to these companies.
Great. Thank you so much for that.
Sure.
That's all the questions I have, Jay. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, thank you very much for having me here. The last thing I'll say is definitely send any sales onboarding manager candidates my way.
There you go. Thanks a lot, Jay,
Cool.
for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.